Welcome to the second session of this great Take a Ladder initiative, and this session is focused on renewable energy sources, securing a better future. And I am the moderator of the session. I'm Andrea Basso. I am advisor for the Progress Tech Transfer Fund. It's one of the funds created under the ITATech umbrella and focused on technology transfer, as the name says. And in particular, I am responsible for the management of the proof of concepts inside the fund, including also scouting and assessing the different opportunities. So today we have quite a bit of valuable speakers. We'll have a keynote from Olivia Nicoletti. Olivia Nicoletti has an interesting background, spent quite a bit of time in Cambridge, and then Italy called her back with multiple initiatives, and I let her then give a bit more detail, and she will give an overview of the renewable energy from the different perspectives, in particular the one related to investment alignment with the ESGs from the European Commission. And then, in addition to that, we have three presentations of three inventors that come from different universities in Italy: University of Campania, University of Genova, and University of Pisa, that touch different areas of renewable energy technologies. And then after that we'll have a round table, and I hope you'll be able to participate with your questions. In terms of questions, you have a tool for submitting questions. The question will be answered either during the round table or at the end of the pitches. Now, just to give you a bit the landscape on renewable technologies, there are well-known pillars, and I think the most well-known is solar energy. That is the most commonly and the most developed, I would say, in particular with the recent price increases. So a lot of people actually put solar panel on their homes, but there is still a lot that can be done to make this technology more effective, lower cost, and so on. And not only that, but also in all the chain, also to recycle solar panels, to manage them, and so on. And today we actually have presentations that related to this area of solar energy. Then the second important pillar related to renewable energy is the wind energy, and all of you saw turbines here and there, to collect them. But there are a lot of interesting topics that need to be addressed. Imagine how to connect, a turbine to a grid, and how to make it effective without changing what is called the frequency of the grid. And if this fluctuates, it's a major headache. So I will have actually a presentation on that. And then, of course, we have geothermal energy that is developed, but is a bit less developed than the other. Bioenergy that is also developing quite well. And finally, and probably this may be a topic of discussion, is nuclear, right? We have seen, in the recent 2-3 years, a bit of strong activity, actually not a bit, a strong activity in clean nuclear, both in France, in Italy, and so on. So we don't have a presentation specific to that, but this is a topic that we may touch during the roundtable. I think I don't have to explain why we need to go to renewable. I mean, it's not a choice. It's a must. Because we are at the point, if you want to have this, you know, the planet to last a bit more, we really need to move to a solution that are much more, you know, planet friendly. And having said that, I think at this point I will leave the floor to Olivia. As I said before, Olivia has quite an interesting background, and probably she will say a bit more on that. She has expertise not only on the technical side, but also on the investment side. She actually worked in a couple of, right, Olivia, on a couple of funds before joining PwC. We are happy that she came back to Italy only recently, a couple of years, if I well remember. But it's a great addition to the venture capital managers in Italy. Olivia, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. Can I just ask you to tell me if you can see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, you can see the presentation. So thank you so much. I just want to spend a couple of words in telling you who I am, and so a little bit about my expertise, and so what I will focus on during this talk. It's going to be brief. So as Andrea was saying, I am a physicist in background, so I have a deep tech background, and I moved to the UK in 2008, doing a PhD at the University of Cambridge in nanophotonics. For the sort of nanotechnologists out there, I did a PhD in plasmonics and published in Nature, and it was all really pretty. But kind of decided to move away from pure research because I wanted to be more of a generalist. Moved into technology transfer, which is, you know, as many of you know here in the panel, and then the people, you know, that are trying to do their venture is, you know, people that help academics to spin out companies and commercialize the technology they develop in the university. I've done that in what is considered the best technology transfer in the world. I didn't know at the time, but, you know, grew to love it over time, which is at the University of Cambridge. And I focused pretty much on everything physical sciences and engineering. So I did quite a lot of things in photovoltaics and light emission, like LEDs, materials, energy harvesting, but as well as many other things like quantum information, medical technologies. So I'm very much a generalist and wouldn't say I'm in any way, shape, or form a professional in renewable energy. I've seen some things, and we'll see what I've seen. But there is a lot of renewable energy being, you know, thrown out of universities, which is interesting. I would say probably around 40% of inventions that I've seen were related to the renewable energy sector. After that, I moved to early stage venture capital, and that within a university ecosystem. So I was working for the technology transfer office of the University of Cambridge, also within the seed funds team. They have a £30 million fund to fund first tickets and second tickets in university spin-outs. And then I moved to full-on venture capital roles, both in the UK and in Italy, in the sort of deep tech ecosystem, I would say. And after that, you know, I've moved to PwC. In Italy, I help Italian scale-ups more than setups finding funding abroad. So trying to bring capital back within the Italian ecosystem from outside VC funds. So what I'm going to try to explore today, and I thought of this as a bit more of a thought-provoking exercise than really try to make an overview of everything that is renewable energy and sort of startup/innovation ecosystem, is to try and understand, you know, what we're working with in terms of, you know, where are we regulatory-wise, where are we, you know, funding-wise, where are we VC venture capital-wise, where are we startup-wise, and how is Italy doing within all of this, even within the sort of closest ecosystem that is Europe. The answer is not so well, but that's always the answer. So there's room for improvement, and it's really, I think, good to see that. I think the tech transfer ecosystem and the university spin-out ecosystem are really growing within Italy, as well as funding. What I think is particularly missing, but we can talk about this, is the know-how. Not many people that know how to do this well and repetitively, and the results are going to come if we really tap into that know-how from abroad. But anyway, let's focus on what we're talking about today, which is renewable energy. So we know in renewable energies, we're working within the European regulatory system, and European goals when it comes to renewable energy have been becoming more and more ambitious over time, responding obviously to the climate crisis and much broader discourse on sustainability, population growth, energy resources. So when I sort of was a teenager, we saw the sort of 2009 target, which we just recently met, and then this grew over time all the way to what we've decided last year, which is the Repower EU plan, which really is a very ambitious plan that puts renewable energies as being the source of energy for EU at 45%, but in 2030, which is not very far from now. It's like 7 years from now. It's interesting to see what's actually happening in Europe in terms of meeting this goal, and we can see that the distribution is very different, and it has some dependence, obviously, on the type of resources that every single country has. If we take Iceland, I've been there, they have massive geothermal advantage. Apologies for the noise. There are people like reconstructing their house on top of me. Whereas Italy is really sort of middle of the stack, I would say. We're not really falling super behind, but we're around the goal that we put in 2009. So we really have a long way to go to be able to meet the 2030 goal. Of course, this goal is not just about, investing in renewable energy. It has the entire, let's say, energy supply chain in mind. So it's about how to be more, how to be smarter in actually using energy and saving energy within the release of energy, how to produce cleaner energy, which has to do with renewables, and diversification. As we know, with the Russian war, we cannot rely on single sources also within the renewable ecosystem, even because, territory-wise, Europe is very broad in terms of natural resources. So as Andrea was saying, what will we define as renewable resource? It's something that is naturally occurring and is naturally renewable. So it sort of replenishes itself over time. And we find under this definition 5 main categories, which is solar, wind, geothermal, hydro, so stuff that has to do with water, and biomass. Not all of this are sustainable, which are quite interesting. Biomass is not considered a particularly sustainable source because it can't renew itself, similar to fossil fuel over time. And there is a very interesting debate on nuclear. Is nuclear a renewable resource? And specifically in nuclear, talking about the new types of nuclear that are being hugely invested in currently, which is nuclear fusion. We'll see later an interesting pick in cash injection within the renewable energy ecosystem. And there are lots of, actually, the highest part of this has to do with nuclear fusion. Part of the debate. This is something that I wanted to throw out there and then see what you guys thought, more than really, is it right or not? Because it's happening, so nothing we can do about it. I just wanted to highlight a little bit what I've worked on within this ecosystem. As I said, I'm not a renewable energy expert. I'm a deep tech expert, if anything, and I generally said that. But within my time in technology transfer and venture capital, I've seen quite a few technologies and startups that had to do with renewable energy, as I said before. And it's interestingly, or maybe not surprisingly at all, most of them are related to solar, and they are related to either new materials, new types of devices, new architectures, how to store energy that has, it's not constantly being released into the system. And the other bit that I've seen quite a lot on is fusion, which is, interesting. I have opinions on this, but I don't want to, impose my opinion. It's mostly an interesting way to talk, to notice what's happening in the ecosystem. From now on, I wanted to focus a little bit on what's happening within the venture capital ecosystem. Venture capital, as we know, are investment funds that invest money in normally startups and scale-ups. So they're normally from either T0, so from day one, all the way to mergers and acquisitions / IPO events. The ones that I work in are early stage, so first investment or second investment or third investment, so anything between few hundred thousands to several millions. Several millions being minor than 10, just so hand wavily. And to see how they've invested over time in energy. So is energy something that interests them? How they've moved through the years. And it's really interesting to see that there was a lot of push in investing in energy until 2010. And then in 2010, the investment kind of fell down over time quite significantly. And that's because there has been kind of a burst in the bubble of faith in energy as an investment for venture capitals. So not as, not as an investment in general. And that's because of a few things that venture capital looks for that is kind of not always present in an energy investment. An energy investment is typically very cash intensive, not very liked by early stage investors. It is quite slow to scale. So from when you invest at the beginning to when it comes to fruition, both the technology and it gets to revenues, it's quite a long period of time. And there are competing cheaper options like fossil fuel, unfortunately. And so it's actually difficult to earn margins unless it's really pushed by the regulators and maybe subsidized to actually kick into the market and become the preferred option. And so it is really interesting to see how really the private market is pushing the government to actually invest and move more into doing more regulatory things to push investment, public investment rather than private investment in the sector. If we look at sort of early stage startups within the sort of energy ecosystem, renewables is the darker blue. As you can see, there has been a contraction. There was a very big interest in the 2010s, and similar to what we've seen before, there has been a contraction over time. So within the sort of general energy investment, startups in renewable energy are at a deficit right now for the things that I was saying before when it comes to private investment. So government investment is key. So we'll have to see what happens with the PNRR. I don't even ever gets here, by the way. But anyway, let's look at what happens in Europe when it comes to pumping cash in the system. So if we look at funds that are being funded, so I create a fund, I put money in it, and then I invest in startups. Is someone interested in investing in funds that have renewable energy within their remit? And we can see that this is kind of like quite stable over time. And the total capital raise is really going down in the last few years. This kind of changes a little bit when we looked at the median deal size and deal counts, so number of deals within startups, so how many startups have been funded and how much have they been funded. And these are the spikes that I was telling you before. These spikes are mainly due by nuclear fusion, startups. There are a few, not many, 4 or 5 within the world. A few in the European ecosystem, especially in the UK, and we have one in Italy. And they're super cash intensive, so they require hundreds of millions in terms of funding rounds. So they really squeeze and change the statistics. When we look at Italy and the Italian investment in startups, we are falling pretty much behind everybody else, but that's not new. 2022 seems to be quite a good year. The amount of capital invested is quite significant. It's 300 million, but it's mostly because of the fission deal within Nucleo. So if we have notable Italian examples, Nucleo is based out of Turin, out of the sort of Stefano Monolifti founders. They have, raised significant amount of capital, but that's also because what they're doing is very capital intensive, and there is a lot of interest from, big funds to invest in fusion. And then Energy Dome, which is, kind of on the renewable energy, it's carbon capture for energy storage, is another notable, success example within the Italian ecosystem. Today, we're going to see three very interesting, very, very early stage examples of sort of proof of concept, so initial steps after creating an interesting technology within the lab. They're from three very different areas of the renewable energy space. We have something in solar. It's an interesting types of solar. Solar concentrators gets talked a lot less about than pure photovoltaics, but it's very interesting. Smart wind, who talks about an interesting part of renewable energy that is often overlooked. So how to inject the energy produced by, in this case, a wind turbine within the grid, and how to do that in an effective way that deals with the variations that you have within the input of a wind turbine. And then Temelev, it's interesting. Temelev does something very similar to a startup that I sort of touched upon when I was at Cambridge, and they do vibrational energy harvesting. This has been humongously successful, especially in the IoT space and in the sort of individual sensors that are scattered around that would need otherwise, an attachment to the grid, so an attachment to power. Whereas using vibrational energy harvesting, so let's say micro energy inputs that are sort of captured by natural vibration, is a really interesting way to make them completely energy independent, so they don't need batteries, they don't need an energy supply. And vibrational energy harvesting, in terms of sort of micro harvesting, is really, really successful. So I'm gonna stop here, and I'm gonna let Andrea maybe take the floor again, and then introduce the first of the talk.
Yes, okay, Olivia, thank you very much. That was a nice presentation. I like the second slide, in which you see there is the south of Europe that is, the less effective, the average, that is all orange, and then the top that is all green. We're going to talk about that because it's an interesting thing. Okay, so I guess we're going to start with the first of the proof of concept. So we'll have, sorry, Luigi Costanzo that will introduce Temelev. I think Olivia already said everything. He took my job. And so Luigi, the floor is yours. We are all curious to understand what you guys are doing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let me say if you can see my screen.
Yes, Luigi, we do.
Yeah, we can see your screen. It's all perfect.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you, and hello to everyone. I'm Luigi Costanzo, and it's a pleasure for me to be part of this event and to present the proof of concept project entitled TEMLEV. In particular, TEMLEV is the acronym of the Italian title of the project. The main aim of the project was the improvement of the technology readiness level of the patent entitled Electronically Emulated Tuning for Vibration Harvesters. What about our team? We are engineers from Department of Engineering of Università della Campania, and our research activity of the last years is mainly focused on topics related to energy harvesting. We have national and international scientific collaborations on such topics. What about the context and the main motivation of the activities of the project? In particular, we are talking about energy harvesting, and Internet of Things and wireless sensor networks today represent an effective, sustainable and cheap solution for safety and security problems in many applications like transports, industries, environment, and smart cities. We all remember the Viareggio disaster as an example in 2009. Probably a condition monitoring through a wireless sensor network could have prevented such a disaster. So Internet of Things and wireless sensor networks are very widely employed today, but there is a problem. The energy supply of such devices can be a problem, because in the great part of the applications where they are employed, a wired energy supply is often not present or not economically convenient. Disposable batteries can be an alternative, but they have high maintenance costs, they have environmental impact and low reliability. So a green alternative solution is represented by rechargeable batteries together with energy harvesters. Energy harvesters are devices that are able to convert into electricity otherwise wasted forms of energy. An example is electromagnetic vibration energy harvesters. Without going into the technical details, they exploit the relative displacement between a magnet and a coil for converting the mechanical energy of vibrations into electrical energy, as shown in this brief video. However, harvesters in many cases are resonant. And their resonant nature makes them able to efficiently operate only when they are tuned with vibrations. That is, when the resonance frequency of an harvester is tuned to the vibrations frequency. This means that once an harvester has been factory tuned to a predefined frequency, it can be used only in that applications where we have vibrations with that frequency. The problem is that in the vast majority of practical cases, the frequencies of the exploitable vibrations are time varying. Therefore, an harvester may not always be able to extract power. In scientific literature, mechanical tuning techniques have been presented just for the proper regulation of the harvester's resonance frequency in order to make it always coincident with vibration frequency. And the invention, which was the subject of the proof of concept TEMLEV, refers just to a mechanical tuning technique that has the peculiarity to be electronically applied. That is, the optimization of the extracted power is obtained by a proper control of a current into an additional coil in order to improve the efficiency of the harvester at a desired frequency different from the harvester resonance frequency. The patent status. The Italian patent has been granted in 2020. The European patent has been granted in 2022. Before the proof of concept project, the analytical and numerical validations of the system were carried out, reaching at technology readiness level 2. The objective of the POC project was to enhance the TRL of the patent at the third level. In particular, the attention was focused on the electrical system of the patented technology, and we implemented all the circuits and tested them experimentally. What about our future roadmap? With the proof of concept, we have reached the third TRL. In the near future, our objective is the raising of funds for further increasing the technology readiness level of invention. In particular, fundamental for the advancement of the technological maturity level of the patent is the creation of the mechanical system of the patent, which includes the magnet, the spring system, the internal extraction coil, and the external tuning coil. Subsequently, we want to carry out all the optimization and experimental tests of the entire system covered by the patent. The goal is to reach a suitable TRL level for the commercialization of a product. We have carried out a preliminary market analysis, and we have identified as a target market the energy harvesting market, which continues to grow rapidly, driven by IoT market and renewable energy policies. And this market can be segmented on the basis of the application field, source of energy, and geographic area. Before concluding my presentation, just a look to the possible value proposition of the product that can be commercialized. The increase of the electrical power generated by energy harvesting systems will expand their areas and possibilities of application, eliminating in this way in all that applications where now it's not possible to use energy harvesting due to the small values of powers. In all that application, it will be possible to use energy harvesting, and so to eliminate the need for a wired electrical power supply and the need for disposable batteries with their maintenance costs and their environmental impact. Moreover, the increase of the electrical power will allow in those applications where today harvesters are used, it will be possible to supply more performing IoT devices with higher service quality levels, and it will be possible to reduce the harvester number and size for the same IoT device to be supplied. This means that it will be possible to reduce the system initial cost. These are our contacts, and thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you, Luigi. That was an interesting presentation. I was wondering if you guys already thought about, integrating a bit more complex way, because you have a core technology, but then you probably need also backup battery. You need so that you can ensure continuity of the system power. Now, did you think about how this then in practice will end up in being, or?
The basic principle of vibration harvesting is that the energy can be obtained only when vibrations have levels so that the devices are able to extract such an energy. So the presence of a backup storage device is fundamental, and it will be possible to think about rechargeable batteries, but also supercapacitors are a technology that today can be very, very interesting for that application.
Scenarios in which this can be used. I think in big turbines, you know, for IoT devices that need to do that all the components are running properly, and so you can have also, you know.
Sorry, Andrea, I have a connection problem, so I can't hear you for a bit time. Can you repeat?
Sure. No, I was thinking if you already thought about possible scenarios of application. So where are the best scenarios in which you can collect the maximum energy, you know, in which the harvester can actually work pretty well.
And a very, very interesting application that has already commercial products is freight train applications, where basically the energy is available only on the locomotive, but all the rest of the train has not the availability for energy supply. So the monitoring of as an example, the temperatures of goods, the GPS and other kinds of sensors can be supplied by vibrations of the train during its movement.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Luigi. That was an interesting presentation, and we keep going and we move to our next speaker, that is Andrea Pucci from University of Pisa, and the project is called the Sunrise. And again, we go back to solar. This is a solar concentrator, and Andrea will tell us everything about that. Andrea, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. Now show my screen. Okay, I hope that all of you could see my presentation. I start the presentation from the beginning. Yeah, so thank you Andrea for the introduction. Thank you Olivia as well, because it's her presentation would be useful to enter in the main topic of this our idea. And this idea was developed at the University of Pisa by a team of researchers. Part of them are nowadays retired, but thanks to the youngest new arrival, so a new researcher, that is the person of Marco Carlotti. The researcher is continuing and is very active, is still very active in this topic. So my name is Andrea Pucci, and I'm a professor in industrial chemistry at the Department of Chemistry and Industrial Chemistry of the University of Pisa. And my research field is mainly based in polymeric materials, in polymer science, and in order to provide the polymers a new life, new functionalities in the field of sensors and in the field of energy, and also in the photovoltaics as well. So the topic, the main topic of this idea is to formulate a luminescent solar concentrator based on waterborne polymer dispersion. So starting from a field-forming aqueous dispersion that contains water-soluble, water-dispersible fluorophore, and after solvent evaporation the film is formed on the surface of a glass or on the surface of an amorphous surface, also a polymer as well, for example, polymethyl methacrylate, and a luminescent window is created. You can see here the light that comes from the edge of the device, also under the illumination of a neon, of a LED inside your office. Let's imagine what's happening if the sun shines over the surface. So the emission emitted by the fluorophore is easily concentrated towards the edge of this lab, and you can put the photovoltaic cell over the edge of this lab, and the photovoltaic cell can do their work, so they can easily convert light into electrical current. You know that the problem, the limit of the photovoltaics today is their limited diffusion within our cities. So in order to increase, in order to boost the building integration within also our towns, our cities, a new technology is needs to come, and in particular, our idea, the idea related to the luminescent solar concentrators, is to substitute, for example, the windows, the facades, and the shelters by colorful luminescent solar concentrators that are a slab, plastic or glass slab that contains a fluorophore that is able to collect the sunlight and to emit and to shine fluorescence within the slab, and the emission is easily collected at the edge where you can put a photovoltaic cell. So photovoltaic cells are present only in the frame of the windows and not directly exposed to sunlight. So you have a window, a colored but still transparent window that is able to collect the light and is able to convert the collected light into electricity. So you can reduce the amount of silicon, so you can decrease the cost of photovoltaics, but also you can increase the diffusion of photovoltaics in the urban environment. So you can combine, for example, aesthetic with energy purposes. To date, the LSC technology, the technology of luminescent solar concentrators, is entering in the market. And the solution proposed here in our idea would favor its wide diffusion thanks to the use of what? Of sustainable materials and low-cost materials at the same time. So, for example, waterborne polymer dispersion is proposed in this idea and this invention for the realization of thin film luminescent solar concentrators are useful because waterborne polymers are widely utilized in a wide range of applications, spanning from paints and coatings, for example, due to a easy formation of a thin film, but anyway with a film with a controlled thickness, and by using only water, so without any need of organic solvents, toxic solvents, so without the need of a cost to be paid for their recycling, for example, and their disposal. So in this idea, we prepared luminescent solar concentrators, thin films of luminescent solar concentrators, starting from polymers that can be easily dispersed in water, starting from fluorophores with very high optical properties, very high luminescent properties, useful to convert the sunlight into light that can be exploited by the solar cells. Main applications. The main applications in the urban environment spans from facades, windows, shelters, terraces, for example. And here, what I reported below are a picture of a shelter that has been recently installed in Livorno. This is a bus stop. Photovoltaic cells are included in the frame of these plastic slabs that are luminescent solar concentrators, and they have a function to can easily to easily convert sunlight into electricity. So you have here a colorful shelter without the need of a large amount of silicon, because the silicon is installed only in the frame of the luminescent solar concentrators. This is an example. But the technology that we develop, you can decrease the cost not only of silicon, because you need a lower amount of photovoltaic surface, but you also decrease the cost related to the use of solvents, to the use of the conventional technology that that is used for the preparation of luminescent solar concentrators. Here, what you need is a glass frame, is a glass surface, and a water dispersible polymer, a polymer that can be used, for example, in coatings and that you use to paint the old surfaces. The paint that contains water-soluble paints that contains a water-soluble, water-dispersible, high fluorescent fluorophores. And the research team, thanks to the contribution, the proof of concept grant, we were able to boost the TRL up to the value of 6 or 7, and this grant allowed us the preparation of larger surface area luminescent solar concentrators up to 50 per 50 centimeters square in size. And here reported also an example of the typical LSC that we were able to prepare. You can see the transparency, and also you can see the light emitted from the slab of this panel. The research team within the frame of this grant, of this proof of concept, took also advantages from the collaboration with a company, with a small but very active company in Tuscany, in Grosseto. That is a company specialized in the design of new instrumentation for the characterization of photovoltaics in general. So they developed for us solar simulators, solar cells, integration spheres that were able to characterize and the power emitted by our luminescent solar concentrators and their performances in general, in order to see if our devices were the performance of our devices could be similar to those of the state of the art. Advantages. This technology allows to obtain a low-cost photovoltaic technology. So luminescent solar concentrators were born in order to boost the diffusion of photovoltaics also in the urban environment, and we think that that our idea could be able to boost such diffusion because we started using waterborne polymers, so polymers without the need of organic solvents and toxic technology, the common technology that we use in order to prepare a slab of polymers. And we use water-soluble components, water-dispersible components. So we think that this technology is able to reach the new standard required by the industry, the European industry, to enter in the market with very advantages. So this technology made possible the diffusion of photovoltaics in urban environments, and it's possible to obtain electricity from windows, views, shelters, and all available surfaces irradiated by the sun. This is a brief description of our idea concerning new things to do, new tasks. Obviously, we are looking for fluorophores and material that are able to increase again the performances of our devices. So, for example, fluorophores that are able to increase the performances of a solar concentrators, fluorophores with with a very high ability to absorb light in the broad spectrum of sunlight, and to emit light with a very high efficiency towards the edge of the LSC. We need also fluorophores that are stable, because they need to resist in front of the sun year by year, compare to the classic photovoltaic panels. But we think that our idea could pave the way for the success of the diffusion of the photovoltaics in the urban environment. So this is our opinion, but anyway, I think it could be also well supported by you. And so these are my links in order to have a future collaboration, in order to ask for additional information, and please check all the details, also the email address of my university, where you can ask information and possible collaboration. Okay, so I'm fine. I hope to have provided a clear overview of our idea, but I'm here for your question and happy to reply to your question.
Thank you, Andrea. Very interesting presentation. I have a few questions here. So first of all, what is the TRL? So which
TRL
stage?
is about 6. Is about 6.
6 in the sense that you already tested it in an environment that is well outside the lab.
Yes, because thanks to the Pucci research help, they were able also to monitor the stability of our system outside not only inside but also outside the laboratories, in front of the sun, day by day, and we are collecting data since the first installation. So we have monitored and we have monitoring. We are monitoring the properties of our devices.
Right. And the second question is, what would be the minimal size? So I understand that somehow you can modulate, right, the size, and you have a 7 milliwatt per centimeter.
I would like to reply talking about the maximum size. The maximum size is about 30 centimeter per centimeter.
Okay.
Because you have to imagine that since the device is based on the emission of the fluorophore, and you have to imagine that the emitter light that is generated at the center of the slab needs to go through the slab towards the edge.
Right.
And during this trace,
right.
a certain deactivation can occur. So it's better, for example, having a luminescent solar concentrator in size from 25 per 25 up to 40 per 40 centimeters, instead of having a bigger luminescent solar concentrator. So the minimum is 25, the maximum is about 50.
50, right. And one thing that I didn't ask all the other participants is, what do you need in terms of for the next step? Yeah, I imagine money.
The polymer, I have the polymer, so the polymer is not a problem. I have the fluorophore, but and the fluorophore is available because the fluorophore that I used in this technology is prepared for coloring textile. So the fluorophore is available and a low cost as well. But I need to increase a bit the lifetime of this fluorophore. In order to do that, in order to increase the life over 2 and 3 years of this panel, I need to work more on the fluorophore. But pay attention, since we worked on thin polymer film over a glass surface, you can easily remove the film and put again. So the preparation is very easy. So as soon as you experience a degradation of your film, you can easily remove and put them put again on the surface of glass.
Right. What is the next step for this? It's a startup in the horizon. It's
yeah, the next step is good question. Is we take advantages of one regional project financed by European Community and by the Tuscany region. So the next step is I would like to have a project and let's think a project which combine industries, companies, because I think considering the very high TRL, in my opinion, now we are ready to go to the other side. Okay.
It's always difficult, for
I know. I agree with you.
Yeah. I'm also a senior expert for WIPO, Worldwide Intellectual Property Organization. We are preparing this guide on incentives for researchers, academics, and TT managers on on technology transfer. And I know
you're right.
how difficult is this step, to move on the business side, that sometimes is considered the dark side of
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, very good. I'm just checking if there are questions, but I think we can move then to the.
Sorry, Andrea. We have one question. I send it to you in the chat, if you can see.
Yes, I see the chat.
Okay, perfect. I also send it to you, Andrea, so that you can directly answer, but probably you already answered in part of the question.
Yeah,
anyway,
in fact,
I'm happy to answer. For me, no problem. Okay.
We touched that already, in my opinion. Okay, so we can move then to our last speaker, that is Andrea, Professor Andrea Bonfiglio from University of Genova. The project is called the Smart Wind, and it is about the problem of how to connect a turbine to a grid. I was mentioned at the beginning, and then Olivia did also a few comments on that. How tricky is to not to have spikes, not to change the frequency of the grid, and so there are a variety of issues. And so on the other side, a variety of opportunities, in fact, for developing an innovative technologies. So I'm keep talking until Andrea can find the right window.
I have two monitors, and I don't know. Maybe it's easier for me to move the presentation to the other one than trying to change the monitor. So
I can talk for another minute if you need.
I think now you should see the right one. Let's see.
Not yet. Yes.
Okay.
Very good. Okay.
It's the smallest one, but I can see it, so that you can see it. Okay.
Perfect, Andrea. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Now let's see how the presentation goes with two monitors. Now you're right.
Just go to impostazioni di visualizzazione and change invert the screens. Here?
Yeah, find it. Invert visualization. Okay.
First one.
Now, okay. Thank you very much for the support. Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Andrea Bonfiglio, and I am the delegate inventor of the Smart Wind technology, emulazione di inertia emulation for wind turbine generators. And I am one of the three inventors of this technology that are myself, together with the Professor Renato Procopio from the University of Genova too, and Dr. Alessandro Labella, which is a former PhD student of our research group that now is working in an outside company. It's not moving. Now it's moving. Okay, let's start with a little bit of a recap of what is the main problem that our technology tries to solve, or let's say more properly mitigate. Because as the chairman was saying, in the electricity system, we have a very big issue, which is the regulation and maintaining the frequency as constant as possible. Frequency is a very important quantity in both for end users, but also for a reason of stability of the whole electricity system. Due to the need of making an energy transition, so moving from centralized and polluting power plants to renewable and distributed sources, a problem will arise at some point. I try to figure on the left side what is the main role of the electricity system in managing, in balancing the electricity demand and the generation, that for every instant of operation of the electricity system need to be in balance. In balance over a very large system, because the electricity system is an interconnected system. And so what happens in Europe affects Italy and vice versa, and all the countries in the interconnected electric system. And this system is always in constant balance, considering that energy demand is constantly changing. Frequency is an indicator of this unbalance. So if something starts to change, if the balancing starts to change, frequency is the first variable that starts changing, giving a warning about this and allowing the control system of the electricity system to cope with this variation. How fast the frequency changes is related to the so-called inertia of the electricity system. The transition I sketched in these two parts is making the system change from the left side, where we have standard power plants where the generators were directly connected, so green connection to the grid, to the left condition where we have different kind of generator and loads that are connected to the grid via power electronic devices like cars, batteries, wind, solar, and so on. What is the consequence of this change? The consequence of this change is that the inertia of a generator, which usually is available to the power system to mitigate the frequency variation, is not seen from the grid if a power electronic converter is placed in between. So the transition, so a power grid where the orange connection will be more than the green one, will cause a very strong decrease of the electric inertia of the system. This means that frequency will change more rapidly, and this could make a bad thing like blackouts happens if mitigation action are not considered. What is an implication of this? An implication of this from a regulation point of view is that many system operators are introducing requirements for new power plants like wind, solar, storage, and so on, in order to give new services to the grid, in order to compensate this inertia reduction. This goes under the name of synthetic inertia, so inertia that is not physical, but it's provided by some controllers, some control action on the generation side. And these are some examples of some grid operators that already have introduced for new power plants the request of synthetic inertia for power generators like wind or storage units. And this will create the need of implementing this kind of action in a practical way. And this is where smart wind technology comes to place. So smart wind technology actually didn't invent synthetic inertia. Synthetic inertia is something that we talk about since for a decade at least, from a research point of view. But passing from an idea, which is making the synthetic inertia happen, and making the synthetic inertia happen, requires to fill the gaps of actual problems that each technology has in order to provide this kind of service. So smart wind technology is an auxiliary controller for wind turbine generators that contributes in providing inertial support from wind turbine generator in an effective and secure way. the three macro novel aspects of this technology is the first one, providing a support that is effective but also tolerable by the wind turbine generator, that under some circumstances during this support might face a stall and so disconnect from the grid, and so if this happens, giving also an even worse impact instead of a positive impact to the grid. Then managing the recovery phase, it's called, after this, when the support is done, where does the wind turbine takes this extra power from? Is kinetic energy. So giving the support will mean that wind turbine will decelerate to give this kind of contribution, and after the support is over for any reason, the wind turbine needs to take back the energy to restore its original speed. This is a phase that needs to be managed, because if not suitably controlled, might nullify the support action that we have just provided. So it could be nullifying the support action in some cases, and this is solved by smart wind technology. And of course, the definition of logics to manage and to discriminate, for example, when we risk a stall from the wind turbine, so control management logic that avoids facing disconnection, or understanding if the speed recovery phase is a critical speed recovery phase, and so we need to monitor it and control it, or if the situation is restored, and so we can opt for example, for a very quick restoration in order to be ready again to provide the service after its completion. Thanks to the POC project, proof of concept project, we have been able to arrive to a laboratory prototype version of this controller, tested in a laboratory environment with an hardware-in-the-loop approach. So with a detailed model of a wind turbine running on a real-time simulator that was interfaced by analog and digital signals to the prototype. This was also awarded as during the IPA, Intellectual Property Award 2021, and the technology was also presented in Dubai Expo in 2022 actually. What are the next steps in this process? The first thing we are doing is some functionality improvement based on the result of the project. Project allowed us to have this prototype and also to point out what was fine and what needed to be tuned or redesigned a little bit. So that's something that we are actually working on. That's the first thing. Second, we shall need to extend the validation not only with the simulative real-time simulator, but also with some extended hardware wind emulator, because we are taking this in our laboratory, and so this will provide also a more robust validation of the controller. And probably in parallel, we could also work on moving from the laboratory prototype to a more industrial-oriented deployment of the control. After this, the idea is to find and look for some partnership with some industries working in the manufacturing of wind turbines, because once that the industrial prototype is tested in the laboratory power hardware emulation, the most suitable continuation would be to find maybe a small case or a large case power plant where to make some tests about the actual functionality with the real power plant. The market, and also related to the roadmap, because of course the core market for smart wind technology is wind turbines. Both new wind turbines, because in this moment the requirements for synthetic inertia will apply to newly installed wind turbines. But if the situation will become more critical, one cannot avoid thinking about the possibility of retrofit existing wind turbines in order to improve the support action also from the installed power parks, which are very large number in Italy and also in Northern Europe. And the technology is designed to well fit also with the retrofit of existing wind turbines. So the market application might be very large. And as I said before, the problem of synthetic inertia might be applicable, not the problem, the service of synthetic inertia might also be applicable to different technologies, like electrical storage system, electric vehicle in a vehicle-to-grid fashion, and also photovoltaic power plant, if, in this case, we have to say, some curtailment of the PV plant production is imposed by the operator because the system is not able to take all the power. So we can use this extra power to make the system more resilient. This would imply doing the same thing that has been done for wind turbines for different technologies. So taking the advantage of having developed this technology for wind turbines to find the specific characteristic of each other technology where synthetic inertia can be applied to make like some application of smart wind for different fields. But this is a necessary step to make the system actually more resilient. This concludes my presentation. I am a little bit extra 10 minutes, sorry about that. Of course, this is some of my contacts, personal contact, and some institutional contact from the University of Genova. And of course, I am more than happy to answer some question if you have some.
Andrea, thank you very much for the presentation. That was interesting, and I ask you the same thing I asked to the other speakers. You outlined what the next step.
I cannot hear you.
Yes, I think that Andrea have some connection problems. Just wait for a bit.
Okay, okay, but you can hear me still.
Yes, yes, perfectly.
Okay,
yes,
okay.
yes, perfectly, Andrea.
No problem. Now I try to unshare my screen. I should have unshared my screen, right?
Yes, I confirm.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so I can see if you can see me.
Maybe in the meanwhile, Andrea is trying to reconnecting. I'll ask to the other speakers and also to Olivia to open up your cams in order to start the next part of the session. I hope Andrea is still with us. Okay, probably yes. I see that he turned again on his microphone.
Yes. I'm sorry, I don't know which Andrea you are referring to.
No, Andrea Basso. Sure.
Okay.
Sorry. Same session, 3 Andreas.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's actually, a pretty good case here. No, the question I had for Andrea Bonfiglio was what would be the next step in your opinion? I mean, you already outlined, but in practice, more research, more projects, or actual industrial development, or a mix of the two. How you see this moving forward?
Well, in this moment, probably what we're looking for is another opportunity similar to the POC project to have a little funding to get the next step. So another one step in the TRL. So with an industrial prototype, I think it's easier than to go to some companies and see, do you want to taste it? Do you want to make some tests? Because it's a semi-product. So in this moment, we are looking for project opportunities to make this one step more toward the industrial prototype, and then looking for partnership with this industrial prototype ready to be shown to possible interested partners. Okay,
and still another question. If you have to estimate, the amount of money, because there may be actually investors listening to this. So So if you would have to ask for some money, how much would you ask and how you would use it? What is called the use of proceeds.
Yeah, well, I think not. I mean, depends on what much means to someone, but I think that with like 20-30,000 euro more or less, because there is not so much experimental stuff to buy, but there is some tests and activity to do. So like 20,000 more or less should be a possible budget to make this one step in the theory, more or less.
Right. And then actually I'm asking also this also to Andrea Pucci and Luigi Costanzo. So how much money would you need to move to the next step?
I am maybe okay. Start okay. I think I need less than Andrea Bonfiglio. So, but because I want to. Well, so less, it means 10, 15.
I was actually, you know, I was thinking much more than that, but
no.
Maybe I'm wrong.
My technology is not so cost consuming, is not so expensive. Okay, I'm trying to synthesize a new fluorophore, new water soluble, water dispersible fluorophore, but the technology is ready, and I just need the cost to buy solvents, compounds, building chemicals, and to adjust some strategic pathways. But anyway, is so the technology is still mature, so it's still available. So just need to cover cost from the organic synthesis.
Right. And Luigi?
In our case, this is a very good question. We have thought to this aspect after the POC project, but our problem now is that we are mainly electrical and electronic engineers, and so we have focused the attention on the electrical system of our device, of our patent. Now the attention should be focused on the mechanical part, the magnet, the spring system, and so the system itself is not characterized by a high cost, but what probably requires money is the search for the skills that we need for completing our system. So we have, I think that also in our case, about 20-30,000 euros is the budget that we probably need. But all depends on the type of skills that we will be able to identify, and we need cooperation with in order to make the entire system works.
Right. You guys are cheap. I mean, I enjoy that. I deal with POCs, so in general, when you know, we have a selection process and so on, and I am the guy that then sit down with the researchers and say, okay, how much money you guys need? And then blue, of course, and they say, do you need this? Do you need this? Do you really need this? And so we finally end up in you know, in tickets that are much more consistent, so around 200K. That is the kind of POC target that we have. So and you are really, you know, very conservative. One good thing is you know, you have to be ambitious, you know, just think big, and that may change your life. When I spent 17 years in Bell Labs, and then we did a lot of patents and we had also startups inside, and I remember that at some point I said, well, you know what, I think I can do this for $500,000, and I had the check on my desk after a month. That is shocking, because you can imagine means that you have to start running, but and we're able to do quite a good technological development with that. So if I have a comment, and just will be, you have to think big. You have to think at a given level and then double it. So that you can get you can get more ambitious.
Yeah, I agree with you, but you have to think also that you are in Italy, and
no, that's
okay. So a company that are present, that attend this meeting, is a positive signal from the company's point of view. But anyway, you need also to say that okay, I need a certain budget to cover the cost of the materials, of the procedures, and if they are able to cover such costs, because they also want to invest in their company, if they are a company that develop, for example, chemical compounds, so they can do them by themselves, or if they want to invest also in a person, they need to pay also for such person that work in our laboratory. So it depends on their strategy. So I answer your question thinking only to the materials cost point of view.
Right. No, but definitely. But Andrea, in Italy now things are changing.
Yeah. Okay.
So imagine that in 2019, Itatech, this initiative that came from CDP, Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, and the European Investment Fund, it's a fund of funds, created 5 funds, including mine, and for a total investment of 200 million.
Okay.
POC phases that were around the 200K, and then you could go up till 5 million of total investment. And I noticed that there is a lot of reaction and feedback from the Italian university. So I hope this will continue, and will definitely continue. CDP is also now have a more sophisticated program. So as I said, we need to think big, and
for sure,
and be ambitious, because believe it or not, Italy, from a research perspective, it's top 4. From instead the transition in the technology transfer, then is where things get really bad. No, so we have a lack of capability of transferring technology or research that we have developed into then the technology that can reach industry, but not because we are not capable of doing, or we don't have amazing ideas. Is that the system still need to be pushed forward.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's go back to the main topic of this roundtable, that is renewable energy. So Olivia had an interesting second slide that presented, and I don't know if you remember it, but mainly the south of Europe was the worst performing in terms of renewable. Then there is this middle area in the center of Europe that was orange, and then of course the Nordic countries that are performing very well, with the exception, if you look carefully, there are some greens with the small countries. I think there was Slovenia that was green, and no, I don't remember exactly the slide, but you know, small countries that are, you know, performing well. Now the question is, shouldn't be a coincidence, right? Why this is happening, in your opinion?
Difficult question. I think. I think it partially depends on the availability of natural resources and, you know, part of the politics involved in deciding how to invest. I'm actually surprised that we're not doing too bad compared to maybe countries that are more established financially, see Germany, see France, that have more maybe of an eye, but we do have, you know, probably stronger natural resources than some of this, and maybe a more stable also weather system. But more than that, for me, it's difficult to say. You know, I think some of them have system like take the Nordics, like geothermal, that is fairly developed and fairly, I guess, easy to extract more than the rest. Others are sort of middle ground, so they have to work on compounding the effect of multiple technologies, meaning solar plus wind plus this and plus that. So, you know, not being an expert, I'm not really sure, but that's my feeling. But, you know, happy to hear from the professors in the room. Yeah, I can represent the slide if you want.
Yes, please.
Just give me a second, because this is not the easiest of systems.
I have an opinion, but I want to hear all the other before. Any opinion, all the Andreas and Luigi, why this is happening?
Just wait for the slide number 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really know how to set this up, because I can't find the tab where I can actually share my screen anymore. So it's really
probably you don't have permissions now.
Yeah, you don't have permission, maybe. Yes. You need to
basically to describe how the slide was. Yeah, I'll describe it.
Okay.
Probably Andrea Basso can give you permissions.
I can give permission. Okay. I feel quite powerful if I can do that. Okay.
Okay.
Can you see my screen now?
Right.
Sure. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
You can see basically that. So some of the southern countries are sort of middle ground. They're sort of on the 20–30% level. And then there is the big center, which I suppose has to do, this is my supposition, has to do with the fact that they would probably have to deal with mostly solar and maybe biomass, but they do not have, you know, maybe some wind capabilities. I think it's the problem is finding the right mixtures that would higher this percentage. And then the north is probably geothermal. I wish we'd had the superposition of what technologies could work in this particular geographic environment, but that's my supposition.
The curious, yeah, the curious thing, and I tell you also what is you know, is some of the attitude with respect to renewable. Typically, the Nordics have been always very attentive and careful, you know, about resources for two reasons. On one side, they are scarce, and on the other, it's a matter of culture. You see here also Switzerland is gray there, but also there it's quite efficient in the use of resources. Instead, the south, I think, has much more resources, probably a much more sun, no, that could exploit in much higher you know, percentage, but we are doing, because it is something that you know, we never thought about being quite rich in resources, but this probably will change, you know, and what is likely to happen will be much more uniform scenario in the next 10, 15 years. I don't know if there are any other opinion. At least this is mine.
No, I agree with you, Andrea. It is a mixture of opportunities, geographic area, and culture. Okay, right. If you mix and shake them together, I think that Italy is in this position because it has is placed in a very good geographical area. So let's think about geothermal energy, but for photovoltaics as well. But it has as a culture that loves stability and hates a bit future transformation. Okay, so it's well, I don't know that then the discussion also could open also opinion from of politics guide and opinion. So maybe the results of our discussion will be shifted towards politics and so on and so forth. But anyway, Italy is in Europe, so we have to also to see new directive of Europe. The last one is concerning fuels and biofuels. So we will see what's happening then. We have to think also that we have in Italy important companies in the automotive sector. Let's think Fiat, but Ferrari, for example, Maserati, Lamborghini as well. So we have to take care also of it. So it's not easy to answer to your question. Because from the geographic point of view, we could generate a huge amount of electric power from the sun and from the wind, for example.
Right.
But anyway, we love the stability. Okay, so changes are for us hard to.
And also, you know, if you can add the deployment, effective deployment of these renewable technologies requires your organization, requires a lot of ancillary support to make it happen. And definitely the North are a bit better organized for sure. Faster. But things are, I'm sure they're gonna change. In particular in solar, I know for sure there will be big step forward. But it's definitely it's really striking. Looking at this picture, because it is not a coincidence that this is
no, absolutely, yes, for sure.
I don't know if Andrea, Bonfiglio, or Luigi, do you want to add anything?
Basically, I agree with your opinions. We can summarize all by talking about a sort of inertia.
Yes, I agree with you.
Which is not synthetic, by the way. It's not a synthetic inertia.
The north of Europe has a smaller inertia. We have a larger inertia from this point of view.
Right, and consider this also a high level picture, because if then we go in details, regarding the different initiatives, the map may change a bit, but it's a good indication. Okay,
yes,
now
let's think also another thing. So let's think the 110% of how you say the recent the initiative of the government to push and to boost the renovation of our buildings. It was a good idea or not? It was well organized or not? So let's try also to answer all the initiatives around so the discount of 110%. that was released last year. We are now in a situation that we don't know how to fix certain issues.
Right. No, and the idea, I think overall is good. Now the implementation, you know, it can be open for discussion.
Maybe
I don't want to get, you know, into that kind. Also because you know better than I do, you know, how things are evolving with respect to that. But yeah, I mean, the need to be a promotion from the government, simply because Olivia pointed out this really clearly. No, from an investor perspective, if the technology, you know, a fund typically has a life of you know, 5 years plus 5 years plus 1 or 2 years of what is called a grace period. No, so as an investor, you typically tend to look at technologies that you know, can lead to an exit in the lifetime of the fund, and an exit with a good factor, multiplication factor. No, and these are technologies that tend to be capex intensive, and may require time, in fact, for then full deployment, from moving to lab to even a reasonable testing environment, maybe you know, pretty pretty intense. And so, you know, what Olivia was showing, it's actually true, no? And so if the government doesn't step in, or the European Commission with you know, Horizon Europe or EC accelerator programs and so on, that can push you know, and finance the innovation in this area, sorry, so that you know, we can continue, then becomes an issue, because that it's so you know, how from a researcher perspective, so you know, Olivia and myself, we have both technical and you know, investment experience and background. But you as a researcher, how you feel about the presentation that Olivia made?
It's not very well nice.
Regarding the investment, regarding the trends.
What I noticed that, in fact, I had a curiosity on the slide on the investment in startup. There is a difference, very discontinuous trend in the 2011-12. My curiosity is what happened in that year.
You mean this one?
Yes. This is a very, in my opinion, strange discontinuity.
It kind of follows, I think, partly this trend, in my opinion. I mean, like they come from slightly different sources, so they might be slightly different statistics that they're looking at. So, you know, keeping that into account, might not be exactly the same data that they're working with. I think there is partly this, you know, disillusion with the energy space. You know, there is often, you know, coming from the VC world, there are often trends and things that people fall in love with. That has been, you know, the .com is the most famous crash, but, you know, clean tech, quantum, you know, a lot of things become, you know, blockchain, AI, and machine learning become really hyped. And then once they don't really deliver the value, then people start, you know, not wanting to invest because they've seen that, you know, things don't convert in the way that they want to convert in terms of capital. So I think it's partly that. It's partly, I think, the tale of the financial crisis in 2008, which we're seeing now. You know, it's not really a financial crisis as bad as the 2008, but we're seeing, you know, Andrea maybe can talk more about this, but as slowing down in venture capital investment because of how uncertain the markets are. So a lot of venture capitals tend to withhold their cash for their current portfolio companies. I'm talking generally, obviously, broad strokes. So they don't invest as aggressively, they don't invest as speculatively. And so you tend to see these crashes, after a couple of years, obviously, because venture capital doesn't move as fast as, financial markets, obviously. So it's a combination of factors, in my opinion. I think the financial crisis has a lot to do with it, with the contraction of available cash in funds, as well as, a lot more careful investment from VCs, a lot more withholding cash to keep it for portfolio companies that are going to need more cash for, sort of a longer period of time to be able to become cash positive, etc. And we're seeing something similar, not as bad now. So there will be a general contraction. So I think it's a superposition of a sort of general contraction plus a sector-specific contraction.
Right. I mean, it's there is this famous Gartner curve that with the hype, then the disillusion, and then it goes up again. Sort of like
the realistic.
Okay. Yeah, and this is actually a perfect example. And then when you are short in cash, you are much more careful. You change investment strategy. You focus on something, again, as Olivia was saying, that can generate returns in a reasonable amount of time, and maybe with less risk, because this is called venture capital simply because it's very risky. It's a venture, no, adventure actually, in my opinion. And so even if you have something very disruptive, but with a very long tail before it goes on the market, maybe actually outside the reach of the fund itself. So so this is a bit
there's a lot to be said. Sorry, Andrea, go ahead.
No, and I mean in the sense that we saw this already in the past. We are seeing this now. The new thing is that this now is perceived as a necessity. So there will be a lot of push actually to focus on these themes, and so probably we may see more focused approach. But do fundraising these days, it's I would say it's not easy. Let's say that it's not easy, really.
No, it's not easy, exactly. And I think Italy, unfortunately, is not a very good position, especially in capital intensive sectors such as this one. Capital intensive sectors, we've seen it takes a long time to get to revenues and to get to sort of converting that initial cash into capital. So a lot of countries, I've lived a long time in the UK, the way they solve the problem is a very obvious way, meaning, they give billions from the government to invest in an early stage company until they get to a maturity level where venture capitals can come in, or private equity in general can come in and sort of de-risk the opportunities at the beginning. Italy doesn't really have this kind of approach yet, or is starting to have, but like not at the same level. For example, I know quite well the quantum technology space. The UK alone has put, I think something beyond 2 billion in the sector as public money into startups, which is, more or less the size of the entire Italian venture capital scene. So it's a completely different approach, and Italy, I think, has to think, as well as developing as it's doing the venture capital ecosystem, also developing a sort of a much more inbuilt government support for early stage companies that are capital intensive, renewable energy, but the entire deep tech space is full of capital intensive things that are coming out of the universities. So.
But okay, I would say as a general scenario, but you have also to consider that, for example, the technology that we saw today that you presented, some of them are add-on technology. So the solution that you presented are not necessarily falling in this kind of scenario, simply because, for example, the wind technology, it's well developed. The issue of synthetic inertia is well known, is a serious problem. So it may be easier actually to reach the market and to push that technology forward. Of course, if you move from a couple of printed circuits in the lab to managing a few megawatts, of power, that little step requires a big step. Even from from a conceptual point of view, it's easy, but from a practical perspective, it's tough. So I think the approach that Andrea, Bonfiglio, you were suggesting, makes sense, at least for next step, just to cover that part. And same thing for the other two, no? So these are, so you are like technology providers that may fit in existing markets, quite well. So all the things that we said may or may not apply, in fact, to your specific technology, because you're already in a scenario in which your technology can fit and can have practical usage and fit in the market itself.
Yeah,
because it's a technology that can fit in, or it's a solution that may find its specific vertical, like the one of Andrea Pucci presented, or for harvesting from vibration. That is a topic that is under constant evaluation, and IoT is supposed to really take off. And the changing a battery in in one of these devices, it's a big headache, really, because sometimes the sensors are really hidden in these big machines and so on. So being able to have the energy, it is key, even if the market of renewable is not going so well. So keep these two things always in consideration, because the opportunities really depend a lot on the specific technology, the cost for bringing to fruition, of course, and the context in which the technology can operate efficiently and in a relatively short time. Now, I spoke a lot. I want you guys to talk a bit more. How you see your individual, definitely you already had contacts, right, with companies, I guess. How you see how the reaction, how this interaction is going, what you would see going better, what are the shortcomings, what are the pros and cons?
Well, from our side, in relation to your last topic, I may say that one difficulty for a technology like ours, which is not actually, the synthetic inertia concept is not the core of our idea, is difficult for us to understand what actually is already available in the market, because it's a service that, okay, nobody is requiring, but I think that maybe some companies may have started developing their own controllers. But since they do it like a company, information is not so easily available. So related to the market analysis for our technology, it's complicated to see where actually we may fit with respect to the lackages, the gaps that are in the possible development that some other companies are doing. That is, for a technology like ours, is a little bit more difficult. And as for the last question, yeah, we had some contacts with some companies to understand the interest of potential partnership in developing the idea. And another difficulties in here is that manufacturing of wind turbines is a complex EPC. I mean, there are different players, so usually it's not standard that who produces the wind turbine, like main big companies that brands the wind turbine, actually develops the control, because they might subcontract it to different companies. So actually also finding the right company that maybe works for or works with some wind turbine manufacturers were one of our strategies.
Right. Identify the customer. I mean, if
the customer, exactly.
Right.
Because the automation may be okay on say any company. I don't want to make advertisement for anyone, but is developed by another company, because they say, okay, do it, they buy it and they install it. But actually the know-how about the control might not be actually also in plain air. I mean, sometimes maybe they are subcontracted that you don't see, and so you need to find them, because they are the people where the companies we should work with to make the idea real, industrial, and final product.
Right, I agree. Andrea P.
Thank you. Yes, we have contact as well with the small companies, not only in Tuscany but also around Italy. We have just brief contact in order to know about the possibility to exploit our idea. We are discussing something with the Office of Technology Transfer of my university. We have contacts with a small company involved in energy. We have contacts with a small company concerning the production of shelters, but we are now considering each possibility in order to exploit our idea in the best way. We notice a certain how you say before, not a lack of interest, but okay, they are interested because they understand the idea and the possibility around behind the idea, but they take time in order to have the final decision. Okay, this is our idea. We know that it works. Please go ahead. Okay, and so we have we find a sort of inertia. Okay, in order to go on and to proceed and to decide, because the idea is very simple, is already okay, is easily to be applied to the urban environment, is quite easy. So but we say a bit of inertia, and we don't know why they are not so well decided in order to exploit
you know, that's definitely the lack of cash. You know,
yes, okay, yes,
so that may be a reason. And also apparently these are it's typical, it's the same map that actually Olivia showed in terms of response time to ideas, is the same level of colors. No, in the sense that south of Europe tend to be really slow, you know, in terms of commitment and opening.
Yes.
Yeah. If I can add something to this, during my time at Cambridge Enterprise, I've also done a lot of licensing. Actually, that was my main job for a few years, and you know, collaborating with corporates and clients when you have a sort of technology that, you know, might be, you know, ITRL, but maybe not, you know, an off-the-shelf product, etc., has its own challenges. I think the best parallelism that we came up with after, being a very sophisticated tech transfer was, it's kind of like a love relationship. You have to find the right partner that wants to invest in you the same amount of resources, which for them can be time, can be money, can be different things. It doesn't have to be only money. In really, let's say, co-develop or finish to co-develop or put on the ground, or whatever, bits are missing for you to be able to really test the technology on the ground and show that it gives them, whatever goal they're trying to reach, either, more cost effective or energy saving, reaching, net zero, whatever company goal. There's also the added problem, I think, with working with companies that, especially big ones, they change their goals quite often depending on, the top level changing. So you might be, be on board, have a project, and then something changes with, their goals or priorities, and then all of a sudden kind of disappear off the face of the earth. So it has its own challenges and doesn't always have to do with your technology. It's kind of general. Also in the UK, where probably companies are a little bit more used to working with startups or emerging projects, university projects. I think having the support of people that are commercially savvy or do business development, or at the very least commercial negotiations, can help. That was my job in Cambridge Enterprise. So I don't know how the technology transfer office is there, but, or if you can have some form of,
Right.
official
No,
negotiator. It helps.
I agree with that, with Olivia. You always need to have a champion inside the company, inside that loves your technology and is pushing it for many reasons. For his career, because he's a technologist, or any other reason. But that finding the right partner, it's a love affair. Very very often.
Just as difficult, I would say, and it takes a very long time. I've worked on technologies that got licensed after 6 months. From day zero of talking to the academics, they've had this idea in the lab, and I've got technologies that I've inherited from colleagues that took 7-8 years to find a potential licensor. So there is a spectrum. It depends on the sector, it depends on the technology, it depends on the type of companies you're talking to. Don't despair. But
no. Yes, for sure.
Okay, I think we still have 2 minutes, so I just want to have a round. Everyone can spend a few words. If we start from Andrea, you want to comment on the overall scenario? What did you find interesting? What are the difficult thing that you think you have in front of you? And then I will ask the same question to everyone.
Andrea Bonfiglio, you mean?
Yes, yeah, because it's the first one on my screen. Sorry.
Yeah,
Andrea,
you're right.
Andrea B.
Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank everybody for organizing this event, which was very interesting. So first thing, thanks to the share people and Netval for this opportunity. And then, yeah, I think that we have this step we have ahead of us. So moving to an industrial TRL is going to be probably a hard one, since it's an important one. But I think that we will find a way to make this advancement, because it's worth pushing this technology to and transfer them from academia to the actual industrial application. So we'll do it.
Okay, and Andrea P.
Thank you. So I think that the best way to answer is to show the solar collectors.
Oh, very nice. That's
the solar collector. You are inside the room of my office, so you have diffuse light, but you see the light that try to escape here this lab. So you can easily put here photovoltaic cells, so small silicon here, not only over the surface. And you see also the transparency. So this is it. I think this is the best way to reply to your answer. Okay, so this
okay.
it's quite easy to produce it. We just wait for companies that really like to invest in this.
You need to push. Unfortunately, waiting
and
is
also
tough.
you can combine. So you see how you have in the last years, in the last few years, the diffusion of buildings with color, with the colored facades, windows, but this is only for aesthetic reason. And here you can combine also the energy.
Right. Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. Luigi?
Yes. Also, I want to thank you all for this interesting round table. I can say this interesting talk. We can say that we have covered, from the technical point of view, covered all the power ranges from milliwatt to megawatt. So it's a very complete range of presentations, and it was very interesting, and I thank you all. And in my opinion, these moments are very, very important because it's very important to try to merge research world and business world. So thank you to all the organization and all of you.
It's always tough. And then Olivia.
Yeah, I don't know. My considerations are some of the ones that I've already done. I think, as you said, I think Italians have to be very ambitious, much more ambitious than they've been. At least for when it comes to venture capital, like we're on the watch. A lot of European funds want to invest in Italy. They're just trying to find the right things to invest in. So go and speak to, at the very least, European investors. They will definitely give you, an hour of their time. It is true that this particular sector, it's been cash intensive and kind of delay, let's say, long time to revenues and to return on investment, has its own trickiness. I hope that the Italian government and Europe more generally will inject cash, and Italy will use this cash in a wise way to really push on this, on innovation and renewables. We are famous to be, an energy wise state in a way. Even though we import a lot of energy, we have a lot of big firms in energy that are really, big corporates that are really looked at internationally as international standard. ENI as a very good example. So, we could be, good in this sector and maintain this leadership even in renewables, in innovation. So I hope that the Italian government, this or subsequent ones, we'll see what happens, will help in establishing this thesis over time. And I'm sure eventually, renewable energy will definitely capture the eye of venture capital, and fly definitely in Europe. Europe is really focused on this. So.
Okay, yeah, and I would say not only Italy, Europe is big. Look around also because opportunities are everywhere, and again, you really need to look for them, intensively. It's a tough job, but it may be very satisfying at the end. Okay, having said that, I think we are at the end of the session. I want to thank you, all of you. I enjoyed really spending 2 hours with you. I always like to learn new things, by the way, from everyone. And that's about it. I think we are done, and probably we're gonna be moving to next. I think we should be done.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.